Hey there! Today we're going to dig into something you probably use all the time, but maybe don't think much about, your toolbox. We're going to uncover the hidden physics that makes these simple tools so incredibly powerful. And trust me, the science behind it is pretty cool. So you've totally been there, right? You're fighting with some stubborn nut, just putting all your weight into it and nothing. It won't budge. Then you grab a wrench with a longer handle, give it a little push, and pop! It loosens right up. It feels like magic, doesn't it? Well, guess what? It's not magic. It's just plain old physics.
All right, to really get to the bottom of this, let's set up a little comparison. We'll call it our tale of two spanners. One short, one long. Simple as that.
And this right here, this is a story we all know. You grab the short spanner, you're grunting, you're putting in tons of effort, and all you get is frustration. But then you switch to the long spanner, same amount of effort from you, and boom, success. So the big question is, what's the difference? Why does that happen? Okay, the answer, the secret ingredient, if you will, it all comes down to this one really powerful concept in physics. It's time to talk about something called torque.
So what on earth is torque? Well, think of it like this. It's the turning effect of a force. It's not just about pushing hard. It's about how good that push is at making something spin. When you're dealing with a stubborn bolt, torque is the real hero of the story.
And this awesome turning force, this torque, it's basically made of two key ingredients. First, you've got the force you're actually applying, how hard you're pushing. And second, you have something called the moment arm. And believe me, this second ingredient is where all the magic happens.
Now, moment arm sounds kind of fancy and technical, right? But don't worry, it's actually super simple. It's just a distance. Picture the nut you're trying to turn. That's your center point, the axis of rotation. The moment arm is just the straight line distance from that center point all the way out to where your hand is pushing on the handle. And here is the absolute golden rule. The longer that moment arm is, the more torque you get. It's that simple. So for the exact same push from you, a longer handle gives you a way bigger turning effect. It's like a cheat code, a force multiplier. I mean, just look at this. It lays it all out. You put the same amount of oomph into both spanners. The short one, with its tiny moment arm, gives you a little bit of torque. Meh. But the long one? Whoa! With that big moment arm, it generates a ton of torque. And that, right there, is why the job suddenly feels like a piece of cake. Okay, so spanners and wrenches make sense now. Longer is better. Got it. But hang on. What about another tool we use all the time? Let's talk about the screwdriver. This gets a little trickier.
Right? Think about it. A screwdriver doesn't have a long arm sticking out. So, how does it work? Where does the torque come from? Does it even have a moment arm?
Well, it turns out the secret is hiding in plain sight. It's all in the handle. When you twist a screwdriver, that center point, the axis of rotation, is the imaginary line running straight down the middle of the shaft. So if that's the center, then the moment arm has to be the distance from that center to the edge of the handle where your fingers are pushing. And what's that called? It's just the radius of the handle. See? It was there the whole time. This explains so much. A screwdriver's moment arm, just the radius of its handle, is super short, right? Especially compared to a long wrench. And that's why you really have to grip it and apply a lot more force to get the same amount of turning power. All right, let's take this one step further. Because sometimes forces work in pairs, and when they do, they can be incredibly efficient. In physics, there's a special name for this. It's called a couple. And no, it's not a romantic dinner for two. It's when you have two equal forces acting in opposite directions that work together to create a pure twisting motion without shoving the whole thing sideways. A double-arm spanner or lug wrench is the perfect example. You push down on one side and you pull up on the other. That's a couple. The result is this perfect, pure turning force with no wobbly side-to-side motion. Actually, think about it. When you grip and turn a screwdriver handle, your thumb and fingers are creating a couple too. Okay, so we've spent all this time talking about how to make things turn. But what about the opposite? What about stopping things from turning? This brings us to the physics of perfect balance. So let's imagine you've got forces trying to turn something clockwise and other forces trying to turn it counterclockwise. What do you think happens when those forces are perfectly matched and cancel each other out? Well, you get something called the principle of moments. This is the fundamental rule for balance and stability. An object is perfectly balanced, or in what physicists call equilibrium, when the total clockwise turning effect is exactly equal to the total anti-clockwise turning effect.
It's really just this simple. If all the clockwise moments add up to, say,
10 units of torque, and all the anti-clockwise moments also add up to 10 units of torque, they cancel out. The total or net torque is 0. The object doesn't turn. It just stays put. Perfectly balanced.
All right, to wrap this all up, I've got a final puzzle for you. Something to really test what you've learned today. We know for a fact that a longer spanner gives you a massive advantage. But what about a screwdriver? If you buy a really long screwdriver, does that extra length make it any easier to turn a tough screw? Think about where you apply the force and what really creates that moment arm. Something to chew on. Thanks for digging into the physics with me today.